When you forget how to master, this is what you should do. I just took a 3-week holiday. I've come back. This happens every time. I question my decisions. This might happen to you, but also to get back into my groove, I always find myself doing these same things. So the first thing is, not only do I listen at the nominal volume, I also listen to mixes super, super loud and super, super soft. When it's much louder, our ears are much more sensitive to high frequencies. So when I'm cranking it, if it's starting to feel a bit too shrill or in my ear, I know that the top end might be a little bit too harsh and I might want to back it off. Conversely, if I drop it down low, the volume, and the low end, I can't hear it. It's not there, even though my ear's less sensitive to the high frequencies. You'd really want to be hearing some low end come through. I might boost it a little bit. So I use the play of volumes and how I'm listening to material to help me get back into the groove. The next thing is how I check for distortions. I have this phobia of distortions getting through on the masters I send out to clients. So it's always in the back of my head and I never really want to miss it. So when I'm mastering, one thing I do is I drop the volume down really low when I'm limiting, and you can start to hear some of the low end breakup or some of the crackling from some of the limiting that comes through when you're monitoring a very soft volumes. Another thing I do is with BX meter is I'll go and monitor the side signal when I'm limiting to see if any of the sides are starting to break up, because typically that's where you'll hear some of that mid-range and upper mid-range distortion start to come about. And also, while we're on the topic of distortions, the delta signal on the limiter also helps give me like a safe check to make sure that I'm not over limiting, it's not introducing too many artifacts. It's just a nice fail safe to have there when I'm trying to get back into the groove. The third thing is to level match my ABs, but not only level match, I will go over a kick drum, a snare drum on 1 second loops, level matched the LUFS, not the peak, LUFS, over and over again to make sure that I haven't went backwards. So usually my first 2-3 days getting back into the studio, I'm actually much slower mastering because I'm doing extra cross checks, sort of like as a calibration for my ear to make sure that I'm not missing anything and I'm getting back into the groove. Fourth thing is I minimize my tool sets, which I use. I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I get very scared to start using processors like, more convoluted processors like the Michelangelo EQ, where you've got like harmonics and EQ in one, or dynamic processors like Leapwing Dyne 1 or Basslane Pro, where it's doing more than just one thing. The reason is because I'm just trying to keep it simple, make changes which are very direct and easy to hear. And I know that sort of limits my tool set that I would use on other days, but when I'm getting back into the swing of things, I like to keep things simple so I don't have any analysis paralysis. I don't start chasing my tail while my ears are getting adjusted back into the groove. And finally are references. Now I'm always referencing on all my mastering sessions, but more so when I get back, I'll be very certain, especially if they're repeat clients, to find old tracks I've mastered, bring it in and create my own barrier. Like, this is the minimum standard, absolute minimum that this has to sound like, if not better. It's a typical habit for me to reference in sessions, but just when I'm getting back, I tend to just go a little bit overboard on the references. So that way I'm 110% sure that that low end lines up, or that top end is hitting, or that overall loudness is making sure I'm pairing up. I've got a couple of album projects I'm working on that have lapped over the Christmas break, so I've been working half on them in December. The next half will come in sometime this January. I'll be really strong on referencing everything I did in December in these January sessions to make sure everything ties in perfectly. So these are the 5 things I do when I forget how to master. And basically when I forget to master is basically whenever I go on holiday, I come back, question myself, I follow those 5 things. Change my monitoring level. I'm hyper vigilant on checking distortions. I do super close ABs, minimize the amount of tools, and reference heavily. Until next time, take care.